hello everybody. This is Mark, and I'm Joe, and we are doing an experiment where we update the blog more often, and we thought that maybe a cool way to do that would be to do a little video, ask for some questions to come in, and have some gentlemen come by and actually make this happen so that it actually does happen. And so we're gonna give it a try and see how it goes. So it's super casual. This isn't gonna be like some crazy production or anything, but hopefully you guys like it. If not, certainly let us know either way, and bring some submit some more questions. So with that, Mark, you want to start us off? We have some questions here. Here's from Scott from Facebook, and he's basically asking about different ways to connect to differential serial bus. I think this comes up a lot with CAN and some different things. So
yeah, and so basically the inputs on logic and logic 16 are all single-ended. And so that means you can't normally directly connect a differential bus to logic or logic 16. Basically, that's be stuff like RS-45, RS-422, CAN, that sort of stuff. And so generally, we recommend using some sort of an adapter. Either use a level shifting IC or get a module. A lot of times, if you're working on a board that already has a CAN transceiver or another transceiver on it, you can just sort of tap it with logic on the single-ended side of the transceiver. That way, you can sort of save double conversion. And then in the case of CAN, you can actually just connect the CAN low wire directly to logic or logic 16, because it actually just works out perfectly to convert from differential to single-ended.
Another thing that comes up sort of related is the whole RS-232. Can I hook it to RS-232? And what's sort of the answer for that right now?
Yeah, so generally you should not plug RS-232, which is plus minus 10 volts, depending on what version of RS-232 you're using. You shouldn't connect that directly to logic or logic 16. They both have over voltage protection, so hopefully nothing bad will happen. But you can actually tie it in with some series resistance, because basically there's some protection diodes in the front end of logic and logic 16. If you just put in like 10K of series resistance, it'll kill your bandwidth, but RS-232 is so slow you won't be able to tell. But it'll also protect the device, so you should be able to use it without a real adapter. Otherwise, you can use like a Max 232 or something like that.
Yeah, so pretty much just throw like a 10K resistor in between, and for most applications it should work like a champ. So cool. Let's see. One things we miss is a good print option.
Yeah, so right now if you take a screenshot of the software, which there's a button for it in the software, and you print it, you'll run out of ink, and you won't be able to read it, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like, kind of the way the software normally looks is it's not really print friendly in any way. So comes up a lot, and we know that we're behind on getting that out there. And but it is happening. We have a graphic designer now, and we're kind of retooling the software, and it's going to be pretty awesome. One thing that is going to be really cool about that whole thing is for us personally, is just to have tons and tons of stuff out there online of people's projects, and really cool professional looking, with our little logo in the corner or something, but really cool looking stuff that's really presentable. And hopefully we can get in lots of data sheets and all sorts of stuff. So I think it's a really good way to document kind of how you work with a particular piece of silicon. Like, how does the I2C protocol work on a particular part? What's the command structure look like? That sort of stuff. What's the timing supposed to look like? So Dan from Facebook writes in about search capability, specifically through a string of bytes.
Yeah, so right now if you record some serial data or some I2C traffic, you can export it to CSV or text file and then search it later. We are actually working on right now adding a search feature into the software, and we were actually testing this internally as alpha. But the idea is that, like, say you want to find a specific address on I2C or something like that, you can just type it into our software, and it searches the entire set in real time, and then it gives you the results.
So how does that work? If I'm looking for address, 0x21, how do I actually use the current software to find that?
Gotcha. So you're actually searching the bubble text. So if you see it in the bubble text, you can search for exactly that, and it's totally like it's totally wildcard safe and stuff. So you can just type in just the address and hex or whatever, and it shows up.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that it's just sort of natural language search almost, or I mean that's not the right way to say it, but you just kind of like searching on Google or something, or just want to string match. So rather than have some sort of complicated user interface where you're setting up, like I want to find the address and I'm going to punch it in. You basically like look how the address is formatted, and then you just kind of format your search the same way. And if it matches on the text level, it'll match. And so we're working on making that as fast as humanly possible. And I'll have a sidebar, scrolling sidebar of all the different results. You'll be able to click a result, and of course it'll zoom in to where that is in the data. And the other cool thing about that, I think, is you'll be able to filter the results however you want using that text search, right? And a lot of people have asked for a long time is like, how do you export, a combination of protocols from different sources, right? So in this situation, how would you do something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we're going to allow you to just export the entire result set. And so let's say you have I2C bus and there's 5 different devices on it. If you just search for the address, it'll show you all the bytes with that address on it, stuff like that. We're going to expand the search capability. The first rev, you're only going to be able to search for like a single frame, but we'll expand that to support packets and stuff like that.
Or specifically, like right now, what happens if you have 2 serial ports hooked up and you're looking at both of them, right? And you want to export both of them sort of so that they're all sort of synchronous in time or whatever, right? And right now, we don't have the ability to do that. You'd have to export one individually from the other and then kind of use Excel to merge them together. But this will allow you to kind of put together the whole thing and export it. So, okay, so what about Kevin from Twitter asked about JTAG support?
Yeah, so we have a JTAG analyzer. It's in beta right now. You can download the new software with that analyzer from community.saleae.com. There's about a half a dozen other analyzers in there, including LIN, which is local interconnected network. There's, let's see, we have a USB 1.1. We have Atmel single wire interface. We have BIS-C, which is like an automation, like an industrial automation protocol. PS2 keyboard and mouse, and a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, we have not done a very good job of sort of marketing or exposing people to the fact that we actually have a ton of these cool analyzers in there. So we will be doing a better job with that. But for now, you can go and get the beta version, and there's a ton of cool stuff in there. And we're also splitting out the list, I think, now. Is that right? The super common ones are all at the top, which I think is just 3 of them, right? Just serial, SPI, and I2C, and then the less common ones will be below there, so you can find them easier. So. Okay, so Tune from Facebook, triggering options, more triggering options, or the ability to search after the fact for specific kind of patterns and things like that. So more generic triggering. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so one of the 2 big projects we've been working on over the summer, we had protocol search was the first one. The second one is more advanced triggering. So the first thing is we took the existing trigger, which only supports a single channel for edge and then like a single or basically parallel state, so you can have highs and lows on other channels. We've expanded that to support pulse width measurement or pulse width triggering, so you can select like constraints and stuff.
So one of the when we were looking at what should we exactly offer here, what's the easiest possible way to expose this, one thing that comes up is sort of what exactly is the scenario in which you need to trigger, when you need to search for something, sort of arbitrarily complex, right? Where if we wanted to build a GUI, right, to support sort of arbitrary state machine matching, right? Is that something that actually comes up sort of frequently enough to justify as it a feature, or is there some simpler thing that we can do? So anyway, I just throw that out there, sort of, I don't know, to get any sort of feedback from anybody who's, if you're coming up with a particular problem that's not going to be solved by a simple trigger or like a pulse width trigger, and you know what I mean? Like, what's probably a good way to do that? Like one thing that's come up before is we can write like a generic Python type of API where you could do a completely custom search against the data. But
yeah,
anyway,
I asked on our forum and via email to some of our customers, what are you guys looking for a more advanced trigger? And almost everybody said protocol trigger, and so that's really good, right, because we can use our protocol search engine to feed the trigger system.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that before, but the new like searchability of the protocol results will also be something you can trigger on. So you'll be able to, and it should be pretty intuitive because you'll already know how to search the results, and you'll be using exactly the same functionality. This will be like a enable trigger button, and now it's only going to start capturing when it matches your particular string match. So there's are going to be limitations to that, like can you decode the protocol in real time and things, but I think for most situations it's going to be pretty cool. So. All right, let's see. I think the last one we have here, T.G. Davies from Twitter is asking about can we just like stream out of the software the decoded protocol results so that he can kind of use it as, in his case, do a tail-F and monitor the serial debug output, which is like on Linux, right? So that you can kind of use it as a terminal. which is a pretty cool application. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so basically, there's sort of two routes for that. In the short term, you can actually pull the serial source code and use our analyzer SDK. It'd be super trivial to add like cout or basically printf, like every time it decodes a serial byte to a file. And then what we're working on, in addition to the protocol search, and this is a little bit farther down the road though, is since the protocol system already runs in real time, we want to get the sort of the display to allow you to basically run continuously. And then we want to be able to hook it up so you can view those protocol results as they arrive. And then we'd have to look at exporting that to a file in real time.
Right. So I think usually, I think this usually comes up for like an RS-232 type of application where you want it to look like a terminal, and right now we have these bytes coming out in the bubbles, right? And it's kind of a pain in the butt because you got to zoom through there. And I think what would be cool is if we have an option to concatenate that all into a string, right, and look for the new lines and whatever, or maybe make that customizable. And then finally have that come up in the results on that list on the sidebar. Would be really cool. So. And as far as actually exporting it out of the software, is that something we might want to do? I mean, we have this API, which by the way is not public either, right?
The socket interface.
Yeah, we have this new automation API because one of the things that people have asked for is, is there a way to hook up logic so that I can use it sort of in an like an autonomous test bench sort of setup? Maybe not autonomous, but like automatic testing, right? Like GPIB style thing where you have your test instruments hooked up and you want to do something automatically. So we have this API that can click the start button, can set up all the different parameters,
right?
Channel sample rate,
export stuff, that sort of thing.
Export to a file automatically, and we're actually using that right now. And part of our internal development for our new products is that ability to grab that data, dump it into some program for some post processing, and figure out whether it's working or not, or whatever you want to do. So I think that certainly getting the protocol results out of there is certainly a reasonable thing to put in the API.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Right now you can auto export any of the analyzers.
Yeah. Actually, you can.
We even have a feature where it'll stream the results already through the socket interface.
Oh, really?
But this is not real time. It's just like you finish the capture, you send a command to get the results, and they show back up over the socket interface.
Cool. And where can people find that documentation?
So it's actually buried in the forums. Shoot us an email to support@Saleae.com asking about the socket API.
Yeah. The idea is that with the next product launch, we're revamping the website and everything, and so all this stuff will be way easier to find and not buried and what's much more publicly accessible. So we'll get it out there. Cool. So in conclusion, I just want to encourage anybody to give us feedback about this sort of format. Is this kind of cool or is it not cool? Can you send us in some questions? Anything at all. It doesn't really matter. How do we feel about certain things that happen in the economy? How do we feel about our competitors? Like, what are we working on next? Can you show us the lab? Whatever. So, anything you want to add to that? Or?
Oh, speaking of which, a bunch of people did ask what we are working on next.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
And we're not ready to make a public announcement, but what I can say is that we're working on the production or the form factor prototypes of the new product, in parentheses, possibly plural.
Yeah. So one thing that I think is obvious for people that are sort of following along is that we haven't released new software in a long time, and people are wondering, rightly so, do we even exist still? Like, what's going on? And so I want to personally apologize that we haven't got the software out there, and also to reaffirm that we are working like crazy. We actually hired a bunch of new people this last year, and working like crazy on the new stuff. It's unfortunately always a little bit further out. But speaking of which, one more thing. You're starting a new software development process, right?
We're switching to Scrum internally, which is part of the Agile methodologies. It's one implementation, and that was about a week ago. So ask us again in a couple of months, and I'll tell you how much I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're using Git internally, of course, and then we have a cross-platform automated build system. We're working on automated QA right now. It's almost working. So one button, automated QA, automated build. It'd be pretty cool, and that'll allow us to release much more often, and that's really the goal. So.
Yeah, ultimately, part of the new methodologies, we want to have a release once a month.
Constantly releasable software, and we're close, so it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Sweet. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or?
I think we're all set.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys.